welcome to another episode of the C-Suite Edge. I'm your host, John Light. I'm also the CEO and founder of Sabretooth Recruiting. And today, I've got Todd Maher with me, who is, what is it, Todd? The CEO, the founder, the big kahuna for BitSource AML.
We could just say founder and president. What's in a name, right?
What's in a name, man? Hey, great to have you on today. And I know you work in a space that a lot of people have a lot of curiosity about, including myself, dealing with crypto and all the things that are around and swirling around in that market space. Maybe you could take, a minute or two here and give us a rundown, not just on career path, but what got you into this specific space.
Yeah, sure. My corporate path, I came from traditional banking. And since 2013, I was really fascinated by cryptocurrency. And I would stay up late and listen to podcasts, listen to YouTube, anything you can get your hands on. There was no book on how to know Bitcoin. There was a white paper. There was influencers who, most of them were of questionable integrity. So you'd go to all these different places, go to these websites, and try to decipher what was real and what wasn't. And even to today, we're all still learning blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. So, from Equity Trust Company as a compliance guy to senior investigator at PNC, I ended up taking a path of going with a startup that launched during the ICO phase of the crypto market, Halo platform. Mm-hmm. And I served as their compliance officer, and then when ICO funds kind of, dried up and it was hard to, maintain a team and raise capital, it came to the conclusion that there was a niche that I could fill. And it was providing compliance services at a reasonable cost at a high level. And knowing what I know and networking with the people that I know in crypto, I was able to launch it into a multifaceted company that does anything from dedicated compliance officer services, independent reviews. Every 12 to 18 months, according to FinCEN, you have to get an independent review if you're a crypto money service business. Mm-hmm. By money service business, I mean anybody that turns fiat into crypto or vice versa, or anybody designated by FinCEN as one, or depending on the state you're operating in. So from there, I ended up, advising banks and making it more comfortable for banks to onboard crypto companies. And today I'm also an expert witness in crypto litigation. So every single month or year, it seemed like it would just branch off into another knowledge base that I was usable. And then after my 29th Title 31 exam with the IRS, I realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this stuff. And 100 BSA audits later, you look back and you're like, wow, I've seen more than just about anybody else in this space. So
wow.
When I have a call with a client, I'm totally confident in my knowledge base. I'm not a salesman at all. Mm-hmm. My product is my knowledge. So,
and as well, it's a space that's it's still so novel, I think, to a lot of people. Most people today aren't investors who go and pick stocks. They're investors who invest via their 401k or an IRA or something like that, and they're not a bona fide expert on a particular industry segment or market or anything of that nature. So I think there's a lot of demand, a lot of need for people not only to make good decisions but stay out of trouble in the crypto space, especially when you talk about compliance and you deal with that three-letter agency that no one likes to deal with. But, in the context of all this, Todd, I guess my question for you, what do you define as the biggest problem that you help people solve?
Probably finding a way to start and maintain in this field in an economical way. Because there's a lot of people out there that will overcharge you. There's a lot of vendors that will provide a less than quality product and charge you 3 times more than the right one. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I do is I'll do a demo a week, right? Let's say we already have the perfect product. I'll still do a demo with somebody else. And this continual looking, testing, providing feedback to these vendors, I'm able to provide my clients with the lowest cost and the best quality product to get the job done. Mm-hmm. Because if you start off and you have a certain amount of capital, and you throw it all into the most expensive luxury software because you don't know other ones exist, or you don't know how to negotiate price, or you're simply new to the place and you think you just need one compliance officer to work full time, when in fact you can have a fractional compliance officer that works at a very high level as opposed to like a college grad with no experience. They're going to know ways to provide solutions to your company that's going to make you last. And that's one of the reasons it's BitSource AML Solutions, because we provide tons of solutions within our network.
It's interesting to me, years ago, we did a lot of recruitment for a Big Four firm that was trying to bring in full-time BSA AML people. Back when that stuff was really hitting the market. And I remember it seemed like every partner we dealt with at this firm had a different view of what they needed. And you bring up, well, hey, you may not need a full-time compliance person, or you may not need the Lux version of whatever software. I think there's a lot of traps in there to figure out what is the right option, the best option, and it may not always be the most expensive or least expensive, but you need efficiency, you need reliability, you need accuracy, and these sorts of things. And there's other things we're maybe willing to sacrifice or push to the back of the line, so to speak, to get those three qualities. And I wonder about that. How do you take someone through that process? Because if you go online and you put in you're looking for XYZ software, all the search engines, and I don't care if you're using more traditional search or if you're using an AI search, they tend to just feed you the same things or very similar things over and over and over and not really give you, I think in the truest sense, a robust choice. So how do you approach that in today's market with your clients?
Well, for me, like I told you earlier, is demos. It would really worry me that if a company wanted some back-end software, for example, this is throughout Bitcoin ATM, right? You have a Bitcoin ATM operation, and the first thing that pops up is sum and substance. Okay, SumSub is good software, however, does it work really well with needs of a BTM provider? Probably not. I mean, it could, but there's other softwares out there that are more integrated specifically for this niche. And if you type it in, who knows what you're going to come up with? You can come up with JBytes, you can come up with Lamasu that requires a lot of back-end programming. Or do you want like an out-of-the-box solution with a very available like IT team that doesn't have you submit a ticket and wait 3 days? How about getting that problem solved right now? And having worked with several of these companies, I know which are the best and the most cost-effective. So yeah, you could do a Google search. It's just about as good as doing a Google search for who's the best doctor, who's the best lawn guy. Well, okay, you got some stranger's opinion on it, or you can get your compliance officer or your consultant to give you one that he has worked with for years and knows is the best quality for the best price. And that could be the difference between opening up the doors and closing the doors.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah, definitely. So, what do you think? And I know this question may sound like it's broad, but I'd like to get on target. I don't know how specific that is, but I'm curious to know, when you look across the whole crypto space, whether, and maybe it's two different answers to this, but whether it's an institutional investor or an individual, what are maybe the biggest pitfall they're going to face? What would that look like?
Well, the biggest pitfall, I'm not an investment advisor.
Yeah.
But from a compliance side, I can kind of give some color to what I've seen.
Absolutely.
These struggles. Regulatory misadherence or the inability to adhere to regulatory compliance.
Okay.
If you're a company that doesn't have your compliance in order, and let's say, for example, one of the things that happened recently is J.D. Pritzker out of Illinois recently signed into a bill that changes limits, how much you can charge in fees, licensure requirements for the state of Illinois. Now let's say you're servicing clients in the state of Illinois in this niche field, and you don't keep up with that. Well, you're going to have a state regulator knocking on your door and asking you why you haven't been doing what they passed in the law as of, well, it goes into effect tomorrow.
Convenient.
If you don't reach out to your provider of your software that you're using, or you have to put in a ticket that 3 days later is going to get responded to, you're going to be not operational for 3 days. And that's assuming that once they read your ticket, they're able to resolve your problem in 3 days, or 4 days, or a week, or a month, or even if it's able to do these changes. So flexibility is really important, especially with the current regulatory environment. Now, individuals, I guess we'll switch over from operating a crypto business to institutional and retail investor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that people do is individuals, they'll overexpose themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we know as an investor, the last thing you want to do is be emotional.
Yeah.
And once you're overly exposed to a market that's as volatile as crypto, your emotions are going to come into play. Or let's say an emergency happens at home and all of a sudden you need that financing, you need that capital. Well, you may have to sell at a low just to get your capital back, and you'll have to take a loss. So I think that and misinformation and hype are the emotional heartstrings that are plucked at by the retail investor that end up leading them to not like crypto or thinking it's a scam. But in all reality, institutions and even nation states are starting to get into crypto right now. As a matter of fact, they have been for the past couple of years. Whether it's El Salvador is using volcanoes to mine Bitcoin to where it goes.
Really?
Yeah. There's volcanic mining activity that's generating a certain amount of energy, and they're able to hook their miners up to this and capture this. So essentially, anybody worried about their carbon footprint, it doesn't exist for that product. And
interesting.
Not only that, but this administration has said they're going to have a Bitcoin reserve. They passed the Genius Act. That means they're serious about stablecoins. Slowly but surely, the whole world is moving towards this decentralized cryptocurrency model. The whole financial system is starting to shift from the dinosaur system to the fast-paced, real-time, no banking hours transaction kind of system that we're going to
It's interesting. It's interesting how it's going to evolve not just the banking, financial services industry, but evolve the regulatory environment. You just talked about Illinois signing a law into place that changes that a bit. There's theoretically, however many jurisdictions you have in the U.S., you could have that many different sets of regulations. In theory, plus the feds on top of that, plus whatever international bodies are out there as well. To me, as an individual investor, it would sound very daunting. Because in my opinion, as an investor, one of the things you don't want to do, you don't want to lose your principal, number one, but number two, you don't want to get caught in a situation where a regulator or the tax man or whoever it might be is getting intimate with all your numbers, as it were. It's got to be a horrid feeling. So is there one thing you would recommend for an individual or an institution to do that might give them a little more confidence to step into the crypto space?
Well, from a tax standpoint, I can kind of allegorically say what I would imagine a perfect individual doing. And I would say have a CPA with letters behind their name that's willing to bet their license that they know how to do this. And if your CPA says, I do not do crypto, I do not handle it, then you'll need a separate CPA for that. There's tons of different software that will keep track about what your taxes are. I can't give any recommendation on software or anything other than saying there's a guy with 3 letters, much like a lawyer is willing to put up his bar card saying, I know the law. This guy's willing to put up his CPA designation to say, I know the law. And if he vouches that he does crypto, like my CPA does, then even though I'm an expert, I'm not a tax expert.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Todd. If somebody wants to find you and get in touch, learn more about what you do with BitSource AML and how you can come in and help them from a compliance and regulatory standpoint, what's the best way for folks to find you and get in touch?
Yeah, I give everybody my first 30 minutes for free. So pick my brain and reach out to me at todd@bitsourceaml.com. That's TODD at bitsourceaml.com. Or you can go to my website, bitsourceaml.com. It's not the best website because most of my business comes from B2B or referrals because, if someone likes the work I'm doing and someone asks, that's usually how I get my business. But yeah, I give first 30 minutes to pick my brain for free, and usually the person feels so guilty about the amount of information I gave them, they just hire me.
Well, they ought to all feel guilty because you're giving them, 15 minutes for free right now as a preview, right?
Oh, that's nothing. Once we get into the exactness of what they're doing, whether it be an OTC desk, an exchange, payment processing, or any kind of crypto-related money service business that exchanges fiat for crypto, that segmented 30 minutes is going to be beyond value.
Oh, man. Well, that's a great offering to have for folks. And Todd, thanks so much for joining me today and sharing some of what you know.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, John.